As early as 5,000 years ago, the Indians told of atomic bombs. The Bible, on the other hand, speaks openly of radio waves, and the Koran explains the Big Bang, the creation of the universe and its end. The holy books of the religions are accepted more like mythology than something that actually happened. In recent years, however, scientists have found very detailed descriptions of technologies, theories, and even of proven historical events. In short, religious texts are becoming more and more real. Welcome to Fact Frenzy, the hub of fascinating discoveries and mind-boggling revelations. Are you ready to embark on a journey that bridges the realms of science and spirituality? Join us as we unravel the mysteries of the universe and explore scientific facts foretold in the holy books. Mahabharata, India. This Sanskrit epic consists of 18 books and was written about 5,000 years ago. It tells of the great war between worlds, and some truly amazing weapons are described. We start with the fact that, according to the epic, within just 18 days, 1.6 billion, not specifying whether human or other creatures, were murdered. The most powerful weapon described there is the Brahmastra, a hell of a device that has only been used once. According to the description, it produces a mighty blast and melts everything within a certain radius, and then generations ahead are infected and feel its effects. Here it is, the very quote.
Gurkhas sent against the three cities powerful a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. Flaming pillar of smoke and fire burst forth like 10,000 suns. It was impossible to recognize the dead, and the survivors lived shortly. Their bones, teeth, and hair fell out.
Analysts say this is an accurate description of the atomic bomb. But where is the evidence? You'd be surprised, but there are some. Mohenjo-Daro. Radiation 50 times the norm was found in this city, and a thin layer of green glass was discovered, produced only from sand at extremely high temperatures. Many people believe that the Mahabharata describes real events and that we are not actually the first technological civilization on the planet. The Bible. In the book sacred to all Christians, there is dozens of scientific facts, but I've gathered only the most interesting in a few subpoints. Number 1. Evolution. We know that strongly believing Christians deny evolution and believe everything was created by God. But in the very first chapter of the Bible, we read the following.
And God said, "Let the earth produce tender grass, which produces seed, and a fruit tree that bears fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in it."
According to some, this is a pure description of the origin of plant life on the planet. Further on, it continues with the reptiles, for which we know predate mammals, and that life on Earth originated in water.
And God said, "Let water produce reptiles and birds to fly above the earth in the firmament."
Again, a coincidence with science. And then come the mammals.
To produce the earth, cattle and bugs and beasts of the earth according to their kind.
Finally, and as the last step of evolution, man was created.
And God created man in his own image. Male and female they were.
Don't you think it's kind of weird, the sequence of the 7 steps of creation? It is because of this fact that many people believe that evolution is actually described in the Bible. Number 2. The Earth soars in space and is round. In times when people believed that the land is fixed on the back of a huge turtle, the Bible clearly and accurately states that our planet is round and floating in space. The books of the Old Testament were written up to 3,000 years ago, and for religious texts sound very scientifically plausible. Of course, from today's perspective. In the book of Job, it is said that God, and here I quote,
"Hung the earth on nothing."
Now this may seem short and inconsequential, but actually our science is discovering that the Earth is hung on nothing and is floating in space only in the year 1650, or 2,000 years after the Old Testament. Even in our days, many people believe that the Earth is flat and nothing can convince us otherwise. But again, in the Bible, we find the following. In the book of the prophet Isaiah, written in 704 BC, says that God, and here again I quote,
"Sits above the curvature of the earth."
In some translations, it is described as a circle, but this is considered an incorrect interpretation. Number 3. Quarantine and hygiene. Mankind has very suspicious hygiene habits in the Middle Ages, and as late as 1845, hand-washing rule is introduced after every patient at the doctor. However, there are texts in the Bible urging believers to strict hygiene and even quarantine. In the book of Leviticus, it is stated that if anyone is sick and his body secretes either snot or pus, should be quarantined even 7 days after his recovery. When he is well, he should burn his clothes and bathe in running water. As you have seen, the Bible commands that the sick should be quarantined. For us, this became practice only after the 19th century. Number 4. Physics. Long before science discovered that electromagnetic waves could carry information, Like text or speech in the Bible 1500 years BC, this possibility was hinted at. Job asked the god,
"Can you send some lightnings to say, 'Here we are'?"
Electromagnetic waves are actually photons traveling at the speed of light. The phones we use today convert these waves into sound and picture. The light or the flash can be manifested as text or a picture. The Bible is also clear about atoms. Here's the quote for you.
"The things we see are made of things that are invisible."
We discovered the atoms in 1808 thanks to John Dalton, who describes the tiny invisible particles that make up everything around us. Number 5, infinite universe. The Bible says that the universe is too big to be measured, and there are too many galaxies and stars to count. We can find that in 2 texts. Here's the first one.
It took him outside and said to him, "Look up to heaven and count the stars if you can."
And the second text says,
"As the heavenly host is innumerable."
Number 6, Oceanography. In the book of Job, we find the following puzzling text.
"Have you traveled to the springs of the sea?"
How come there will be springs in the sea? In the 1970s, however, we find that the oceans are not fed not only by rains and rivers, but also by large-scale underwater springs. How did people know more than 2,000 years ago about the depths of the ocean? There is more. The Bible has also found accurate information about the seamounts. We are also led to this thought by a book of the prophet Jonah, who wrote the following.
"The waters covered me. The abyss locked me. With seagrass, my head was covered. To the seamounts I descended."
I don't know if you know, but in the oceans there are massive mountain ranges that we didn't even suspect until the last century. Do you see how everything is somehow encoded in the Bible? Number 7, currents. Matty Morey, born in 1806, read the following strange text in Psalm 88.
"The birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and everything that passes through the sea lanes."
He asked himself, what kind of sea lanes are we talking about? And like a true Christian scholar, he decided to test God's words. So he discovered both the hot and the cold continental currents that are really used by animals. Again, I remind you that all this is in religious book written more than 2,000 years ago. Number 8, what to eat. Did you know that the Bible forbids the consumption of birds of prey that are quite thoroughly listed as species, and among them we can find bats, of which, as you remember, we already had some troubles. Modern science has made it clear that predatory birds carry many dangerous diseases and parasites. It is absolutely forbidden to drink blood, and today it has been proven that its consumption can cause certain diseases and transmit them. The Bible goes on to correct prohibitions like lizards, moles, and mice. And now to the attention of the European Union. All insects and worms are prohibited, especially crickets and locusts, and it is pointed out that anyone who eats them is, I quote, defiled. It is scientifically proven that they are harmful, carry infections, and cannot be processed well by the human body. If you want to continue to learn such interesting things, you can subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and let's continue. The Big Bang in the Koran. The holy book for Muslims, the Quran, also has knowledge that can only be interpreted today. For example, the Big Bang, in one verse or surah, it is said,
"The heavens and the earth were one mass, and we divided them."
According to Muslim scholars, this very accurately describes how the entire universe arose from a single speck by an explosion. Further, they claim that the Quran also describes its expansion. Here's the text.
"And the sky we built with power, and indeed we are an extension of it."
They also believe that the collapse of the universe, or the end of days, is also described in the Holy Book.
"The day when we will fold the sky like a scroll. As we started the first creation, so we will repeat it."
This actually describes the Big Bang theory very accurately. Just like a flipped coin, the universe first expands but then contracts back into one point. Then the whole process repeats with another Big Bang. Iron and meteorites. In the Quran, it can be found that meteorites contain iron. Listen to the following surah.
"We sent iron with its great inherent power and its many benefits to mankind."
For billions of years, Earth is constantly struck by meteorites, and they contain large amounts of iron in addition to space rocks. But how did they send it? According to analysts, the ancient texts describe the meteorites that carried the iron. The words inherent power are precisely the collisions of cosmic objects with the Earth. Heavenly barrier. We already know that the atmosphere, the ozone layer, and the magnetic field protect us, and in reality, without them, there would be no life on Earth. Surface temperatures would be extreme, and the planet would just be another rock in space like Mars or Mercury. In Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah is said,
"And we made the sky a protective vault."
The text continues with the following.
"It is He who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon. They all in orbit float.
Dear friends, here we talk about orbits of planets and stars. Science only established this through Kepler and Newton in the 17th century. Bottom waves. Did you know that apart from the surface of the seas and oceans, there are waves on their bottom? It was only in 2013 that science proved the famous underwater or bottom waves, which reach up to 300 meters in height. Let's see what it says in the Koran.
And they are like dark fields in a vast sea which is covered with waves, on which there are waves.
Pretty interesting, don't you think? The Quran further states that the seas shall not mix, which has long been a proven scientific fact. Here is what it is said.
He let the two seas meeting one another. There is a barrier between them so that neither of them steps.
As the waters have different temperature, salinity, and density, in some places, even with the naked eye, you can see the boundaries between them. There are entire seas within the oceans themselves, which is actually the case with Sargasso Sea, or the underwater lakes of Mexico. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through the intersection of spirituality and science. Remember, the quest for knowledge knows no bounds. Stay curious, keep exploring, and let the wonders of the universe inspire you on your own journey of discovery. Thank you for being a part of the Fact Frenzy community. Until next time.